Standards, you see them right there. They're trying to prove that they should be starting for Cleveland in a crowded quarterback room. As you see them out on the field, they're trying to make sure they make the team, right? Both quarterbacks, though, sounding pretty optimistic during rookie camp over the weekend. Let's listen in to what they said when they spoke to the media.
My job here isn't to prove people wrong. Like, I prove myself right. And I fully have self-belief, you know, and what those people say, that's just their opinion. So I don't truly care. They don't really live in my mental space about that type of stuff. It really doesn't do anything for me.
With that, though, what was your reaction when you found out they did draft Shedeur after they drafted you?
Yeah, I love it. You know, I love it because of who it is. You know, I think just for us both, you can learn from one another. But also, it's not just us two in the room, at least for right now it is. But, you know, going into the year, Kenny, Joe, and even Deshaun, just a bunch of guys who played a bunch of ball that we can all learn from one another.
All right, D. Wood, what do you think of what we heard and saw from Shedeur and Gabriel this weekend?
Yeah, listen, I think the media out there in Cleveland, you know, drumming up the fact that it's two rookie quarterbacks, the competition. I think both of those guys did a good job of not allowing it to wedge and become the focal point of the whole weekend. And listen, they're going to have to earn their keep. They're both, you know, 3rd and 5th round draft picks respectively. Nothing's going to be given to them. And so by all accounts, they had a pretty good weekend. You know, they're still going to be in stiff competition with 2 veteran guys. And obviously with Kevin Stefanski calling the plays, we're going to see if one of these guys emerges later on in training camp.
Yeah, and I think the Browns are open to that possibility, D. Wood. Now, the 2 veteran guys you mentioned, obviously, Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. We don't expect Deshaun Watson to be a factor as he recovers from his injury. I would think they open up, the offseason program and training camp with Flacco as the number 1 guy because he's got the most experience. But they're going to try and get all these guys as many reps as possible in their rookie minicamp, which is almost always classroom heavy and not a lot of on-field work. Kevin Stefanski put in some 7-on-7 passing drills so he could get Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel some reps that they don't usually have in rookie minicamps. So they will be conscious throughout the offseason of getting everybody a fair number of reps so they can make an informed decision. It is a wide open competition among those 4 players, and they are completely open to the idea of any of the 4 winning the job.
That's just fascinating information there from Graz that shows you how difficult it may be to get all of these guys the reps that they need to really see what they want to see.
What were your thoughts watching Shedeur Sanders during the draft, and how do you see things working out for him this year?
There's a thing called homiletics, teaching and preaching. It means you use one letter to bring the subject, to bring all the subjects. I was both pissed and then pleased. You know what I'm saying? Because I know how hard he pursued that dream. You know, how hard he talked about wanting to be drafted higher than his dad. It was one of the things that made him work. And how badly he wanted to go play in the NFL. There were times he was like, him and his brother, look, can we talk to you about talking to my dad to let us go to the I said, keep me out of that. Keep me out of that. Better do it. You know, something. Don't put me in that. Don't put me. You know? So we would laugh about that. But so to see him punish him like that and go through what he went through, that was painful for me. Honestly, Susan, think about this. And we talked about this on our show, and I said, I don't know if it's some conspiracy, but I can say it this way. I have never seen anyone that has had his kind of success in college put up the kind of numbers that he put up in college and drop to the 5th round. You want to tell me he's not a first rounder? You know, that's a thin line. I absolutely believe he's a first rounder. And here's the thing you heard people say. Oh, well, you know, he doesn't have the strongest arm, and he doesn't run real fast. Eli Manning, doesn't have the strongest arm, and he doesn't run real fast. And he was the first pick in the draft. And the GOAT of all GOATs, God knows he doesn't have the strongest arm. And God really knows he can't run at all. You know what I'm saying? That's Tom Brady. So what we need to learn is, yeah, physical capabilities are important, but your ability to play it in big moments and in big time games and make those big plays are the most important thing. And that's playing football shoulders up. And that's what I saw in Shedeur all the years of watching. And now he'll get a chance to do. I thought he'll have a different approach coming into the NFL, because everywhere he's gone, he had to work his way up from the bottom. All they did by doing this, even though it was painful to watch him drop, I was pleased with how he handled it. They gave him that same start again. He'll start from the bottom and climb his way up, and he'll make it work. I can't wait. What if he wins the starting job this year? Well, I mean, then what is everybody going to say? Cleveland was brilliant, or was the rest of us smart-ass dummies, and we missed it?
Yeah, because he basically has had a great minicamp. In early May, he was out there competing, and we all know that it's Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, and himself as Deshaun Watson rehabs. But even so, you're absolutely right. I mean, is this another one, like Colleen, you can jump in if you want, but like, I think it's just an interesting question. Will they look brilliant, or will they just look lucky?
Yes, will Cleveland look brilliant? I think that is something that could actually happen. No one has ever said that, ever, in the history.
The quarterback race in Cleveland, we saw guys get out there, wing it around a little bit. We even heard from the two rookies in front of a microphone. What are you hearing out of Cleveland first blush with this situation, Tom?
I would start here. The pick for the Browns was Dillon Gabriel. That was the quarterback they targeted. That was the guy they took in the third round. That absolutely was Kevin Stefanski's guy. It sounds like that was also Andrew Berry's guy. The Shedeur Sanders pick was because you're in the fifth round and you've got a guy who certainly has higher than fifth round talent. Again, it's a dart throw. You're taking as many bites at the apple as you possibly can and hoping that one of these guys works out. Why not take a stab at a guy in the fifth round? You know, you've got Kenny Pickett there. You've got Joe Flacco there. I would say just going into this, you would say Joe Flacco has the leg up because the coaches know him, because he knows that system. He's functioned in that offense before. Kevin Stefanski's gone to the playoffs with him. He knows that he can trust Joe. Realistically, Joe's probably not starting 17 games this year. You know, he's been a very durable quarterback through the course of his career. But, you know, the odds that at 41 years old, I believe he is, that he's going to play the entire season, you'd probably say that that's an unlikely type of a scenario. So based on what I hear, it sounds like it's wide open. It sounds like they're going in with open minds into this competition. The real question is going to be, it's one thing for, and I know that Kevin Stefanski said, don't read too much into the reps and rookie minicamp. It's very, very early. There's plenty of reps to go around. Well, as you get deeper into the summer and those veterans come back with Flacco and with Pickett, Deshaun Watson's not going to be ready for anything in the offseason. We'll see if he ultimately is able to do anything on the field even during the course of the regular season here. But when you've got four guys, there's reasons a lot of teams philosophically want to pare that down and really roll with three in training camp. So very quickly as we get into the OTA portion, you'll see how they're dividing those reps. You'll see what the order is. I would anticipate just going in based on how, you know, these things tend to go. It'll be Flacco, then Pickett, then Gabriel, and then Shedeur Sanders getting the fourth reps or splitting the third reps or however they do it here. But that's got a chance to evolve. And by the time we get to training camp, I would certainly think that Kevin Stefanski's going to want to have a real good idea of, okay, here's the 2 or 3 guys we've got to give those reps to. Does that mean that you're cutting somebody or trading somebody? Not necessarily. But it does mean you're going to be shifting those reps in a certain direction. That'll give us an early read on how they're looking at that position going into 2025.
Well, I don't know. What do we give, guys? Mid-June till we hear the Shedeur's not that bad stories. You know, Shedeur is not, I mean, we're not seeing any indication of any of those, you know, off the field, look at me, red flags. You know, he's actually a pro. He knows the grindstone. You already getting those stories coming out of Cleveland, Tom? Or am I just, am I front-loading it? right now.
Well, I would say
on
this,
him.
nobody in terms of Shedeur Sanders' approach,
Yes.
his work ethic, his
Yes.
study habits, nobody said a bad word about that through the
Okay.
course of the process. It was a lot of other different things that went into the Shedeur evaluation. So I have no doubt that he's going to come in and he's going to do things the right way in terms of how he is in meetings and how he is on the practice field. I would say let's see what's happening if we get into June and July and Shedeur is, getting the third, fourth reps. Maybe he rises before that. If he doesn't, then I think, Rich, you're going to hear less of the, boy, Shedeur's not that bad. And what that's very quickly going to turn into is, why isn't Shedeur getting more reps? Why isn't he getting a real opportunity to win the job? Which you wouldn't have that conversation about any other fifth-round pick. And that's one of the many reasons that certain teams were a little bit skittish based on their experience through the pre-draft process. And knowing when you bring in a guy who's that high profile, it's going to turn the entire conversation surrounding a quarterback competition that should be relatively straightforward. But is Shedeur Sanders going to get his opportunity to show what he can do? Can he beat out Dillon Gabriel? Can he beat out Kenny Pickett? Can he beat out Joe Flacco? There's nothing saying that he can't. But again, we'll get a better idea once those veterans are out on the practice field, how they're dividing those reps and trying to manage a quarterback competition. Because I know I've heard coaches say before, there's no real quarterback competitions. We all know going in kind of how this is going to go. You very quickly get that sense. Let's see how Kevin Stefanski sets it up through the course of the process. Who gets those reps in June, July, and in the preseason?
Xin chào các bạn nha. Ngày hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn cắt rán. Đây là con cá vàng. Bây giờ mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn cắt rán. Một viên dây. Không.
Lấy mỗi thằng một cốc.
Cậu nào? Đi em, tự nhiên em có nước chảy rồi.